Thanks for some nice weather. We've all needed it.
Okay, appreciate our fine friends from ESPN and all they do for our sport. Andy, thanks for having all your folks in here. Appreciate very much. And up next is Jimmie Johnson. He is the six-time NASCAR Sprint Cup Series champion. He drives the number 48 Lowe's Chevrolet for Hendrick Motorsports. He's the defending Daytona 500 champion. And Jimmie, maybe just talk about how your first few days of Speedweeks went, how your Daytona 500 car is, and maybe your outlook on defending this race championship.
Yeah, so it's been a decent week. We very competitive in the unlimited race, and spun out there off of 4, which was kind of a weird deal to have a single car spin. But learned a lesson, and certainly learned about the car setup some and how to avoid that from happening again. So I was bummed to be a part of that, because I felt like starting dead last as we did, and to work our way to second and really get that bottom lane working and pulling along the guys behind us, that we had a very strong car and a great chance to win the unlimited. And the next morning was half marathon. That was far better than the unlimited. Actually finished. Let's see, qualifying, it turned out okay. I mean, we expected to be a little faster than that. It's tough down here. You really have to take a lot of chances to produce speed and lap time. And we've been neutered over the years and show up in qualifying trim, pretty much in race trim, and make sure that nobody gets in trouble and everything's okay. So we've got a great race car, though. I think it's going to race just fine. It's a car we had a lot of success with last year, and then the updates have been made to it, and it'll be real competitive. We lost our car in the unlimited, so not that we were going to draft in practice before that, but we really aren't going to draft now. And then tomorrow is tomorrow night's race. We need to watch ourselves, because we're down to one good race car. We have other stuff at home, but we really don't want to bring it down here. We like the car that's sitting over there ready for the 500.
Questions for Jimmie? If you have one, raise your hand. We'll start right here. Gentleman from SB Nation, then we'll go to Jim, and then to Mike.
Jordan Bianchi, SBNation.com. Jimmie, how do you approach tomorrow? I mean, are you aggressive? Do you try to get to the front to get a good starting position Sunday, or do you just kind of lay back, let things happen, and let the chips fall where they may?
The safest place really is leading. So if you're able to get that done, and typically the guys racing for the lead are the ones you trust the most, especially with this package. And since this package came along, we've elected to not ride in races, and have raced for every lap, and it's paid off for us. So we'll keep that same mentality, but historically the duels are pretty calm. Guys, everybody has an agenda to save the race car and to be smart, and we really don't see big crashes and multiple car incidents in the duels. So we're counting on that as well. But when the green falls, we're going to go racing. We just need to make smart decisions and hope we get through the race with a good straight race car.
Go to Jim Utter, Mike Embry, Holly Kane.
Jim Utter, Charlotte Observer. It kind of touches on what you just said. I was just wondering if you thought it might be any different, the type of racing, since it's going to be at night, and maybe be a little bit more similar to the Unlimited, and just because it'll be different conditions than what you generally have seen in the past, and certainly different than what you'll see on Sunday in the 500.
Yeah, if the track stays hot like it is today and we're up in the 80s, a night race would bring more grip back, make the cars a little racier. But I feel more than anything, this track's pretty forgiving right now. The asphalt they put down and the job they did is really, really, really strong. But the energy, night racing, knowing that we're going to be racing in prime time, that's going to bring the energy up. Hopefully we'll have a strong attendance here, and all that stuff will drive the energy up and potentially the risk factor.
We'll go to Mike Embry, Holly Kane, Tom Jensen.
Mike Embry, USA Today. Jimmie, beyond your quest for a 7th championship, which obviously will be a big storyline this year, how do you feel about the changes that have been made, how they might impact Dale Jr.'s shot at a first championship? There's been a long wait for that, and a lot of people wondering about that. Does he have a better shot under this plan, or worse, or what do you think?
I'm going to sound like a selfish driver and say I haven't spent any time thinking about Dale Jr. winning a championship. I've thought about how I can win it. How it will help me. Yeah, I do know that they have been very consistent and have been very close to wins through the season. You know, you need to win in the chase, and I know that they're plenty capable of that. But I don't know. I really don't know how to look at the final 10 races and how to handicap it. I feel good about us. We're looking at statistics and what we've done in the past and winning races in the chase, and you know, that's obviously a requirement now. So as far as others, I don't know. I'm just kind of babbling now. I'm sorry.
Go to Holly Kane, Tom Jensen, Brant James.
Holly Kane, NASCAR.com. Jimmie, there have been a lot of storylines in Speedweeks already with Danica, with the 3 on the pole and things like that. Does it almost feel, even though you're the defending winner, even though you've, you know, going for your 7th championship, that you're a little bit under the radar, and you kind of cool with that, having things be elsewhere?
I think a lot of people are tired of hearing my name, so it's not bad to have the attention go somewhere else. And I hope to be back in everyone's mindset come Sunday evening and being the winner of the Daytona 500. But it is, from the 3-car standpoint, that's the perk of winning the pole. I mean, you get to sit on it for, I don't know, a week basically, and all the headlines lead off with you as the pole sitter, and we've been fortunate to be in that situation. I'm sure Danica would have rather not, you know, be in the headlines at all with what's transpired there. But you know, we're under the radar for now, I guess. But certainly hope to change that come race time.
Thanks.
I don't know.
Let's go to Tom Jensen, Brant James, Marty Smith.
Hi, Jimmy. Tom Jensen, FoxSports.com. With this car, with this package, take us through where you want to be, maybe the last 3 or 4 laps, coming to the checker. You know, how do you race for the win?
I was trying to experiment with that in the Unlimited when I spun out, and was truthfully trying to pass the 11 off of 4 to see what would happen from the exit of 4 to the stripe and how things would play out. Didn't make it very far and ended up wrecked, but looking at how small the field was towards the end of the race and the fact there was some passing, it really is leading towards a you know, it's going to be a revolving door, and I'm not sure you're going to want the lead until you come off of turn 4. Somebody's going to have a run, you know, 2nd car back, 3rd car back, and come up through there. So I think there's a chance for a lot of passing come Sunday.
Go to Brant James, Marty Smith, Alan Cabana.
Brant James, ESPN.com. Do drivers like the duels, like the risk-reward of it? Because it seems like in many ways it's just a way to wreck a really good car if you happen to have one.
That's my perspective this year. When you get through the Unlimited and you have a straight race car sitting there, you're much more relaxed and race the duel and have fun and forget about things. But it'll be weighing on my mind the whole race that we could lose that car and put ourselves in a big hole for the 500.
Let's go Marty Smith, Alan Cabana, Lewis Frank.
Johnson, as you enter this year with the opportunity to tie the greatest, how much thought, like real thought, have you given to history and to that opportunity that's before you?
Since the banquet, not much thought. At the banquet and some of the stories that followed and were around it and the questions that were asked had my mind much more present with it. But I got in the off season and relaxed and let go of racing, and it was really nice to get into January and not have racing on the brain at all. Yeah. I guess we have power in some areas still.
Keep going, Jimmy. We haven't missed a beat.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So the racing gods trying to tell us something here with your question? So I haven't put a lot of thought into it. It's a huge opportunity. Obviously, it's a huge opportunity that we have, and I feel like we'll be able to get a look or two at it as this year goes on and the next few years go on. So it'd be awfully cool to get it done, but it's been out of my mind for a couple months, so I don't have anything too relevant to discuss.
Let's go to Alan Cabana, Lewis Frank, Dave Coleman.
Alan Cavanna, NASCAR.com. Right here. When the Hendrick engine started having issues on Saturday, Do you ask any questions? What was your reaction, and have they updated you on what, if anything, they've done since then to alleviate that?
Yeah, I didn't know that we had an engine problem, and my wife was changing Lydia's diaper in the back of the motorhome and said, "What's going on with the Hendrick engines? The second one just blew." And I had no clue. I was up front with Genevieve and didn't have a clue what was going on. So heard what the final outcome is. I know there were some parts and pieces they were looking at, and they inspected an engine that was in the one car and decided that there weren't any issues there. So we'll see. I know that they're on top of it. So if there was a burning topic, I would have had a phone call or two by now, so I assume everything's under control.
Louis Frank, Dave Coleman, Nate Ryan, and end with Mike Vega.
Louis Frank of Reuters. Jimmy, last year you came here with a new car and won. There's been straight back there
Okay.
in the dark. Last year you came with a new car and won. This year there's been some minor changes. Has that affected how you will drive on Sunday?
Not really. I think what affects at least my driving on the plate tracks is the style of racing. It didn't fit my style all that well. And I just figured out the drafting thing before the Generation 5 car was kind of put to rest, and won in 2006 here, won at Talladega a couple times, and then it moved on. And when this car came back, and the style of drafting was like the Gen 5 car, I was real optimistic, and so was Chad. And I think Chad pointed it out to me that this kind of goes back into the sweet spot of drafting that I'm good at. And it certainly showed that last year with the 2 wins at 4 of the plate tracks, and certainly a threat to win all 4 of them. So it's more the style than necessarily the rules package. And the rules haven't been changed that much coming back this year. I think the goal was to create more passes for the lead, and I'm feeling good about that. I think that's going to happen. It'll be interesting to see what drivers do. Right away in the Unlimited, when the one car had control of the race, he went to the top and got us all single file. So some of it is still in the driver's hands and when we decide to race. But from what I saw, when we want to race, I think we've got a really sporty package right now, and we can make passes happen.
Dave Coleman, Nate Ryan, and end with Mike Vega. Go ahead.
Dave Coleman, Milwaukee Journal
Off
Sentinel.
to your left, Jimmy.
To take a left at Holly, right.
It worked.
Exactly. Even in the dark. One of the consistencies of your team going back to the start, besides you and Chad, is Ron Malik. You guys were together before you got there. Can you just talk a little bit about your relationship and your history with Ron and what he's brought to the program over these dozen years?
Sure. See, so I first met Ron when I was racing the Herzog's off-road truck, and I think I met him at the Crandon racetrack, and he was working for Pro Power Engines, and they had engines in some trucks, and Billy Schleiper was a friend and around and introduced me to Ron. And then a little time passed, and I ended up I think back in California and moving around, and relocated to North Carolina. Kept up with Billy Schleiper, letting him know where I was going, what was happening. And after I got to North Carolina, the Herzogs decided to go ASA racing and bought Baker Motorsports. And when that happened, I told Billy, hey, I'm coming to Wisconsin. Where do I go? I mean, you know where the Baker shop is. Where do I get an apartment? What do I do? So he gave me a few places to look at, and I could probably afford it on my own to get an apartment, but I was looking for a roommate, and Ron was working for Pro Power and was living above the engine shop in this room filled with fumes, which may explain a lot about Ron's personality. But he was living above the engine shop and working on Al Schill Jr.'s late models, and also working on the engine side of things for Pro Power. And Ron came to work for us for a few months, and then after a few we moved in for a few months together. And then after that happened, we relocated our race shop, our ASA shop, and expanded, and we needed another full-time guy on the team, and it ended up being Ron. So that started in, I guess, the winter of '97 when we first got our apartment, and then he came to work for us at Herzog. And we've been together ever since. He came to the Nationwide team, and then when I left the Nationwide team and came to Hendrick Motorsports, that Chad hired Ron to come over there, and he ended up being the car chief, I think, after the first year. I think Jason Burdett was our car chief the first year, and then Ron has been there, for everything, and really has been responsible for my cars and things being bolted together and mechanically sound since '98.
Let's go to Nate Ryan.
Yep.
And then to Mike Vega.
Nate Ryan, USA Today Sports. Jimmie, you were talking, you kind of already touched on this, but last year at Talladega, you got out of your car, the fall race, and were kind of perplexed about why there weren't more guys pulling out of line and drafting, and it was single file. And this race a year ago, Daytona 500, also was kind of single file. Do you expect that that's going to be different this year based on what you saw Saturday, based with the rules? And was it just a case of guys were still filling out the Gen 6 car in year one, and now they're more comfortable with it this year?
There's a vibe on the track that really dictates that, and what dictates it as well is who's leading. And there are a few drivers that it's a great move. It works very well, but they would prefer to ride around the top of the track and tow that train. And once you're there long enough and a handful of laps go down and everybody's riding around the top, everyone subconsciously or consciously commits to sitting in line up there, and you'll see one or two guys try to move down and try to create something, and they just fall to the back of the line. And once that happens, once that vibe changes, you're stuck with it for a while. It's really weird, and it happened that way in the Unlimited, and after I think Tony tried and Carl tried, there was a bunch of attempts. Finally, enough drivers were agitated to ride in single file that we went to the bottom. We had a long enough line, and were able to get to the front. So it's a weird environment, and it's so unpredictable because you're dealing with all these individuals and the decisions they make. And then again, there's that kind of vibe on the track that if you pull out of line, if the bottom lane doesn't work out, you go from running 5th to 15th or 25th or something like that. So you're weighing your risk versus reward. And at Talladega last year, I was blown away, especially after they took the white, that 2nd, 3rd, 4th did not try to make a move to get by the one car. And everybody sat there in single file around the top. That was a bizarre one for sure.
Final question, Mike Vega.
Jimmie, how you doing?
Up to your left, Jimmy.
Two-parter, if I may. First, Andy Petrie was in here talking a little bit about the dominance that they had when he was with Dale Earnhardt and they were winning their championships, RCR, and how they would go into the garage area and there was hardly anybody who would speak to them. And yet he said that you seem more eminently likable to everyone in the garage and more approachable, and people talk to you. Is it important, and when did you sense that you had gained some acceptance from your peers? When was it after you won your first race, your first championship? And is acceptance from your peers and respect mutually, both are things that are important to you? And B, who's in your Final Four when you're filling out the bracket here for the Final Four in the NASCAR playoffs?
I've already forgotten what the first part of the question was. It tells you. Acceptance, yes. So the respect factor from my peers is really important to me, and it always has been. I attribute a lot of that to the way I grew up racing and had some success, but not a lot of success. And I enjoyed the racetrack because of my passion of competing, the relationships and friendships I had in the whatever pits or garage area that existed, those vehicles I was racing. So that whole environment's always been very important to me, and relationships and respect have been really the foundation of all of that. And I'd have to say, though, it was probably 2nd or 3rd championship before I felt maybe a certain level of acceptance or respect. I don't know why. I mean, it could have very well been myself, and I know that over the years I've become a lot more comfortable in my own skin in the garage area, where I fit in the sport, how I fit into Hendrick Motorsports, and it's weird that it might have taken me 2 or 3 championships to feel that way, but there's an argument for that for sure. So, now in today's world, I take a lot of ribbing from the guys in the garage, and that's fine. Their friendships, and I look forward to it and enjoy it, and I do feel the respect in the garage area, and it means the world to me. It means more than the trophies ever will. Those relationships really are everything for me. And then my bracket, certainly had to put the 48 car in there. I think the 20, the 18, 24 would be my 4. I guess I'm going off of how we all run at those 3 tracks leading in, and those are the first 3 faces that came to mind from Martinsville, Texas, and was the other one Talladega? Talladega. I guess Talladega could be anybody, but Martinsville and Texas, those are the faces I saw fighting off for the win.
Jimmie, thank you for coming in here, and good luck the rest of this week.